Not bacteria, not viruses, so...
Fungus. Yes, that's the usual response. Fungi seem harmless enough. Many species know otherwise, because there are some fungi who seek not to kill, but to control. Let me ask you, where do we get LSD from?
Where do you get it from?
It comes from ergot, a fungus. Psilocybin, also a fungus. Viruses can make us ill, but fungi can alter our very minds. There's a fungus that infects insects, gets inside an ant, for example, travels through its circulatory system to the ant's brain, and then floods it with hallucinogens, thus bending the ant's mind to its will. The fungus starts to direct the ant's behavior, telling it where to go, what to do, like a puppeteer with a marionette. And it gets worse. The fungus needs food to live, so it begins to devour its host from within, replacing the ant's flesh with its own. But it doesn't let its victim die, no. It keeps its puppet alive by preventing decomposition. How? Where do we get penicillin from?
Fungus. Dr. Schoenheis, you're in distress.
Fungal infection of this kind is real, but not in humans.
True, fungi cannot survive if its host's internal temperature is over 94 degrees. And currently there are no reasons for fungi to evolve to be able to withstand higher temperatures. But what if that were to change? What if, for instance, the world were to get slightly warmer? Well, now there is reason to evolve. One gene mutates, and an Ascomycetia, Candida, ergot, Cordyceps, Aspergillus, any one of them could become capable of burrowing into our brains and taking control not of millions of us, but billions of us. Billions of puppets with poisoned minds, permanently fixed on one unifying goal: to spread the infection to every last human alive by any means necessary. And there are no treatments for this, no preventatives, no cures. They don't exist. It's not even possible to make them.
So if that happens...
we lose.
Have you ever had that experience where you have an idea for something and you don't do it, and then 6 months later you see that someone else has done it? It's not because they took your idea, it's that it's time for that. And you can act on it or not. The best artists are the ones who have the best antenna for this material that's available.
There's a CIA document that came out. Everybody just started talking about it now. It's called the Adam and Eve story. It basically explains how the world is going to end.
Has it been true?
It makes sense. They say the world is going to end because the poles, like, you know, North and South Pole, they shift every 12,000 to 15,000 years. And once they shift, it causes like a giant like apocalypse. Big earthquakes, giant tsunamis. Once the apocalypse happens, we go right back to the Stone Age. And it said that our first humans, like as us, it was 10,000 years ago. So if you think about it, 10,000 years ago, we're in year 2000. We're at 12,000 years right now. And now you see like global warming and shit like that. Like in the book, it says that we are the sixth civilization that came out of the apocalypse. So we just get to a certain point in life and then it just hard reset. And that explains a lot, because remember how you were saying that the Sahara Desert used to be green and like the Antarctica used to have forests and shit like that? Yeah. That's what happens. Like it switches
everything, flips. Yeah.
So now like some places turn cold, some places turn hot. That's why they was talking about like the flood in the Bible like that. That's probably what happened to Atlantis and shit like that.
I was just about to say Atlantis. It would make sense for a city in the water if the water wasn't there before.
Did the government try to break the firmament? In 1962, after Operation High Jump and the Arctic Treaty was signed, the government started a new project called Operation Fishbowl. The United States did a series of high-altitude nuclear tests where they would shoot nuclear missiles straight up into the sky. The reason for doing this was because they wanted to see what would happen if a nuke was set off in the atmosphere. You would think that one time would be enough, but they did this test 11 times, making people theorize that they were doing it for other reasons. Some believe that this was the government's attempt to break through the firmament. Not to mention the name of the project, Operation Fishbowl. Why would they shoot a series of missiles in air to see how high they can blow up? Do you think the government was trying to break through the firmament?
We cannot
sensibly accept that the Sphinx is just 4,500 years old. The ancient Egyptians were there, but I believe they found the Sphinx already created and already heavily eroded, and that they then recarved its head into the head of a pharaoh. And that head is way too small in relation to the body. That makes sense if it was a heavily eroded lion head, which was then later cut down into the head of a pharaoh. The geology speaks to the original Sphinx being more than 12,000 years old. You see it there.
Right.
Those deep vertical fissures are classic weathering produced by rainfall pouring over the edge of that. The data says the Sphinx is 12,000 plus years old. There should be a huge question mark over the Sphinx.
What is Elon Musk planning? Watch this.
Is Elon Musk. He's the CEO of Tesla Motors, and he's also the wealthiest man in the whole world. But he's also the same man who plans on planting a chip in our brains. Listen carefully to this.
If someone ultimately does get a Neuralink installed, what will take place? What exactly is it?
Well, for version 1 of the device, it would be basically implanted in your skull. Basically, take out a chunk of skull, put the Neuralink device in there. You'd put the electrode, you'd insert the electrode threads into the brain, and you fish it up, and you wouldn't even know that somebody has it. Or it could be something that helps cure, say, eyesight, like give you, returns your eyesight, even if you've like lost your optic nerve type of thing. Hearing, pretty much anything that, it could fix almost anything that is wrong with the brain.
Project MK Ultra exposed for what it really is.
Ultra was a government program run by the Central Intelligence Agency. Originally started as something called Bluebird in 1948-49, and then in 1952 became MK Ultra. It was a mind control program, a brainwashing program. The CIA was trying to learn how to control people's behavior without their knowledge. So their main objective was to create what they called hypno-programmed assassins, people who would kill on command.
We tried to tell you, and you didn't believe me. I done a video about this a couple months ago, explaining that California, along with other states in America, are gonna be completely underwater, and you didn't believe me. This earth is going through a change. Places that are hot are gonna become cold, and places that are wet are gonna experience droughts. So don't buy no land, don't set up no shops, because this world is about to get turned upside down and inside out.
They look at their rockets. This is how they claim to get into outer space, is these rockets. Their rockets never go straight up. Every single rocket launch from a government space agency, you'll notice, follows a parabolic curve. It goes up, it reaches a peak, but what they do is as the rocket starts coming back down, they make sure that it goes down over the ocean, out of the way of any curious observers. Anyone can see it coming back down to Earth, asks, hey, how come the rocket's not going up anymore? Well, it's going around the curvature of the Earth, is what they tell us. So every single rocket, the reason that it follows a parabolic curve, they say, is because it's going around the curvature of the Earth. The real reason is they can't get up any higher than that.
Sorry to tell you, the only thing that's been to space is your imagination.
They tell us that the Earth is a sphere. They show us pictures of a sphere, of a circle. It's a perfect circle. And then they come out and they say, well, it's actually an oval.
Muffin Man was actually a serial killer. The Muffin Man is probably one of the most well-known nursery rhymes. But did you know it was based on a real story? A real dark story. In the 1800s, a man by the name of Frederick Thomas Linwood would wait in alleyways to kidnap and kill kids, luring them in with muffins. The song was later created to spread awareness amongst the kids and keep them safe, warning them about the Muffin Man, who was a danger on Drury Lane even though he was the first documented serial killer in the world. Everyone still teaches the song to their kids because not a lot of people know that the Muffin Man was.
This is the terrifying reason why aliens haven't come to Earth. Honestly, this flipping blew my mind. If you actually want to sleep and don't want to think about this all night, don't watch this video. I mean, aliens may have been to Earth. We don't know for sure, but let's just say they probably haven't. We know we get to a certain age and we pass away. I mean, the oldest person to ever live's been like 120, so you can't live for like 1,000 years or something. What if there is something in the air that is actually like polluting us and killing us? Earth is actually a quarantined planet. Life out of space know that Earth is like, ooh, you don't want to go there, guys, because of all the chemicals in our air, and Earth is so toxic that they don't even want to visit us. They might be watching us from outer space, trying to send signals, you know, like the scientists have found recently, but they don't want to step foot on Earth because they don't want to flipping die. Because maybe in outer space, people can live forever. Who knows? I mean, it's a crazy thought. Hit that follow button. See you in the next part.
What are you guys going to do when our ocean level rises?
Thank you for asking that question. I have the answer, though.
No, let me finish.
I have the answer.
Let me finish.
Thank you for the question. Yeah. Okay.
For the first time on Earth, we're changing the gas.
Now you're full of shit. Sit down. I'm going to answer you. I'm going to answer. Just
Dad.
shut up and sit down.
No way.
Sit down.
No. I got to finish my question.
I'm going to answer global warming.
All right, finish the question, then answer.
It's changing on Earth, and it's changing to CO2. What do you people with the money, what are you doing about this? Because
I'm going to tell you right now. In 2011, my wife and I were in Antarctica, renewing our vows. For most of you that don't know, Antarctica's on a mountaintop, okay? And there is a $500 million facility, scientific facility there, and the scientists came to give us presentations about global warming. And they had cores of ice that they had drilled. They had drilled 4,000 or 5,000 cores, and they only brought 15 or 20. So they're going through the second or third core, and they said 275,000 years ago, this was the temperature, blah, 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 blah. And then 55,000 years ago, the world was 2 degrees warmer Celsius than it is today. This is 2011. And stop. And he said, and I said, well, you mean the whole world? He says, yes. And the poles are only benchmarks. And I said, well, what about the things the young woman alluded to? Okay. And he said, it's all cyclical. And although the gas may have exacerbated it, in the cosmos of time, it's not a fart in the wind. In the cosmos of time, of the 13.8 billion years that we've been on this miserable planet, it's not a fart in the wind. And as I told Joe Rogan on his show, and he said in his infinite wisdom, and Joe, if you hear this, I thank you for the opportunity of being on your show. He said, then in 25,000 years, it's most likely not going to be a problem. Now, my direct answer to your question, if that were really true, which you believe, and let's just for a moment say that it is true, that means that the best scenario vis-a-vis global warming is about 10 feet raising water. That's the best scenario over the next 40, 50 years. That's the best scenario. The worst scenario is about 100 feet. But let's just take the 10 feet. If the water on the planet is going to rise up 10 feet, that means the southern part of the United States is gone. England is gone. Most of Europe is gone. And I can go, most of Central America is gone. Okay, if that's the case, let's just take Florida, for example, which is one of the fastest growing beachfront condominiums on the planet. In the prospectus, when you invest, there should be, in the footnotes, if global warming is for real, they won't put it that way, global warming happens and water rises 10 feet, this investment you made is fuck all. Not one single investment prospectus written since 2000, this century, has alluded to global warming. Not one motherfucker. If it were really true, the banks wouldn't invest. The banks wouldn't finance. Not one motherfucking condominium. So the people that have the money, and I'm jealous of the Vice President, Gore, which Sally and I rode on a plane from South America with a few years ago. I am jealous he came up with a scam before I did. Because the financial institutions, the banks of this world know it's not going to happen. Otherwise, you couldn't get a goddamn loan in London. You know those 30, 40-year mortgages? The world will be over by then. Is Barclays Bank going to give you a motherfucking loan? With the greatest respect, ma'am, it's the greatest fraud that's been perpetrated on mankind this century.
Why do we celebrate Easter? Why do you hide eggs and bunny rabbits? Well, think about what bunny rabbits are known for. Humping. Dude, you put 2 rabbits together, dude, next thing you know, there's 100. And then the Easter eggs is fertility. It was for the god of Ishtar. Isn't that crazy? Most people don't know that way back in the day. they celebrated by having orgies and making babies. So 9 months later, they could sacrifice those babies to Horus, the sun god, who was born December 25th, by the way. Now, when do they say Jesus was born? December 25th. He wasn't. And everybody knows that. You go ask any biblical scholar, they will say he was not born in December 25th. Then why are we celebrating Christmas?